The sun was just beginning to rise over the rolling fields of golden wheat. A soft breeze moved through the tall stalks, making them ripple like waves. In the middle of the field, Henry Carter, a human farmer in his late 40s, wiped sweat from his brow. The morning chores never ended. Every day there was always more work than time. But Henry loved the rhythm of his farm. It was simple, honest, and peaceful. Henry had lived in this small valley his entire life. The nearest town was a 2-hour drive away, and he liked it that way. He knew the patterns of the land, the behavior of the animals, and even the whispers of the wind. But today, something was different. At first, it was just a strange humming sound. Henry paused, frowning. It was low and deep, almost like the earth itself was singing. He wiped his hands on his pants and looked around the open field. Nothing, just the endless rows of wheat, the old red barn, and the morning mist rising from the soil. Then he saw it, a faint shimmer in the air, like heat waves on a summer road. The shimmer grew brighter faster than anything natural. Henry felt a chill run down his spine. He had seen airplanes, helicopters, even drones, but nothing like this. The shimmering light solidified into a strange shape, floating just above. The field. 3 figures emerged from the glow. Henry's eyes widened. They were humanoid, but unlike any humans he had ever seen. Tall, slender, with skin that seemed to change color in the sunlight, and large, expressive eyes that shimmered with intelligence. They moved gracefully, as if they were dancing rather than walking. What are you?" Henry asked, his voice trembling. The tallest of the 3 stepped forward. Her voice was soft, melodic, yet somehow filled with authority. "We mean no harm, human. We are visitors from a distant world. We have watched your kind for many cycles. You interest us." Henry blinked. "Interest me? Why?" The second sister smiled. It was a strange, gentle expression. "Your mind, your hands, your connection to this land. You cultivate life where others might see only dirt and water. That is rare. That is valuable." Henry swallowed hard. He had grown up reading about aliens in books and watching them in movies, but he never imagined standing face to face with real ones. And here they were in his field, speaking perfect English, yet somehow not entirely human. The third sister, who had the faintest glow around her skin, tilted her head curiously. "We wish to learn from you, to understand your ways. There is something within you that we desire to study." Henry felt a mix of fear and awe. The words study and desire sounded serious, not threatening, but he wasn't sure. He had always been cautious. "I don't know if I can help you. Farming isn't a science lab. It's just work." The tallest sister shook her head gently. "Your work is more than labor. It is creation. It is life. On our planet, creation is rare. It is precious. We seek to understand it." Henry looked around at his farm, the old barn, the fields, the chickens scratching in the yard. It all seemed suddenly extraordinary, like someone had painted it in bright colors he had never noticed. "You want to understand farming?" he asked cautiously. "More than farming," the second sister replied. "We want to understand humans, your resilience, your creativity, your connection to the land and the life it nurtures. We wish to share knowledge. Perhaps we can help each other." Henry felt a spark of curiosity ignite inside him. After all, he had always dreamed of seeing the stars up close, meeting beings from other worlds, and learning about places he could never imagine. But he also knew the risk. "Why me?" he asked. "Why not someone else?" The third sister's eyes glimmered. "Because you are alone. You are free to choose. You are strong in ways that we sense but cannot yet fully understand. You are special." Henry swallowed. The words made his heart race. Alone, strong, special. He had lived a quiet life, tending his land, never seeking attention. Yet now, standing before these 3 alien sisters, He felt like his entire existence had been noticed for the first time. "All right," he said slowly. I'll hear you out. But I have to warn you, I'm no scientist, I'm just a farmer." The tallest sister smiled, a gesture both warm and mysterious. "We do not seek a scientist. We seek a teacher, and perhaps a friend." For a long moment, the wind blew through the wheat, and the three aliens and the human farmer simply stood there, studying each other. The sun climbed higher, lighting the field in golden warmth. It felt like the beginning of something extraordinary. Henry took a deep breath. "Okay," he said again, more firmly this time. "Show me what you want, and I'll show you what I know." The sisters exchanged glances, their eyes sparkling with unspoken excitement. Then, as if on a silent signal, they extended their hands, palms glowing softly. Henry stepped forward cautiously, letting the glow wash over him. Suddenly, the world around him seemed brighter, sharper, more alive. The colors of the wheat, the sky, the barn, they all seemed to hum with energy. He could almost hear the life within the soil, the pulse of growth in the plants, the rhythm of the earth itself. "This is amazing," Henry whispered. The tallest sister nodded. "And this is only the beginning. There is much to learn, human. Together, we will uncover secrets of life you never dreamed existed." Henry looked at his quiet farm, then at the three aliens standing in the sunlight. He felt a thrill of adventure, something he hadn't felt since he was a boy exploring the hills around his home. Something told him his life would never be the same. And for the first time, Henry Carter understood that the universe was far bigger, far stranger, and far more wonderful than he had ever imagined. Henry Carter woke before dawn, as he always did, but today his morning felt different. The memory of last night lingered in his mind like a vivid dream. The three alien sisters, their glowing hands, the shimmering light, and the strange energy they had shared with him. For a moment, Henry wondered if it had all been his imagination. Maybe he had just been tired from the long day in the fields. But when he stepped outside, he saw them. The sisters were waiting for him by the barn. Their tall figures stood gracefully in the morning mist, their strange eyes glowing softly in the half-light. They did not look like intruders. They looked like guests who had been waiting for his permission to begin. Henry rubbed his eyes and chuckled nervously. "So it wasn't a dream," he said. The tallest sister inclined her head. "We told you. This is only the beginning." The second sister stepped forward, her gaze sweeping across the farm. "Today, you must show us. How does a human create life from soil and seed?" Henry laughed. "Create life, huh? That's one way to put it. Come on then, let's start simple." He led them across the wheat field. The ground was damp from the morning dew and the stalks swayed gently around them. Henry crouched down, scooped a handful of soil, and let it crumble through his fingers. "This," he said, "is the beginning of everything. Good soil, full of nutrients. Plants can't grow without it." The third sister leaned closer, her eyes glowing as if she could see more than Henry did. "We feel energy," she whispered. "This soil carries memory. Life has passed through here many times." Henry raised his eyebrows. "Memory and soil? Never thought of it like that, but I guess you're not wrong. Generations of crops, all feeding into the earth." The tallest sister bent down and touched the soil. Her fingers glowed faintly, and Henry felt a strange vibration under his boots, as if the earth itself had stirred. She withdrew her hand quickly. "Strange. Your world's energy is alive in ways we did not expect." Henry shrugged. "That's farming for you. Nature does most of the work. We just help it along." He took them next to the barn where sacks of seed were stored, held one up and let the small kernels trickle into his palm. "This is seed wheat. You plant it, water it, care for it, and it grows into something that can feed a family or a whole town." The second sister tilted her head. "So small, yet it holds the pattern for life." "That's right," Henry said. "Everything begins here." She touched one of the seeds and her eyes widened. "It whispers. It waits. It longs for the soil. Henry looked at her strangely. You can hear, seeds? Yes, she said simply. Every living thing carries a song. We can hear it. Henry felt a chill, not of fear, but of wonder. He had always respected the quiet miracle of planting, but he had never thought of it as a song. To him, seeds were silent, patient things. To them, they were alive with voices. The morning passed with Henry showing them how to plant seeds, how to water the soil, and how to care for young plants. The sisters listened intently, never interrupting, their glowing eyes following his every move. When Henry explained the importance of rain, the third sister raised her hands and closed her eyes. Moments later, the air shimmered, and a light drizzle began to fall over the field. Henry stepped back in shock. Wait, you can control the weather? The sister opened her eyes and smiled faintly. Not control, we ask, and the sky answers. Henry laughed in disbelief. You've got to be kidding me. I've prayed for rain plenty of times, and the sky never listened. The tallest sister's voice was calm. Perhaps the sky hears you too, human. Perhaps it always has. Henry stood in silence, letting the gentle rain fall over him. For the first time, he felt his little farm was more connected to the universe than he had ever imagined. By midday, the sisters had helped him plant an entire section of the field. Their movements were graceful, almost artistic, as if planting seeds was a sacred ritual rather than hard work. Henry couldn't help but. The next morning, Henry woke to the sound of his rooster crowing. For a moment, he thought everything was normal. The sun rose over the hills, the fields glowed with golden light, and the air smelled fresh after last night's rain. But then he remembered. The sisters. They had promised to return. Sure enough, when Henry stepped outside, there they were. 3 tall, graceful figures stood by the edge of the wheat field, their skin shimmering faintly as the sunlight touched them. They looked like they had been waiting all night. Good morning, Henry Carter, the tallest sister said with a calm smile. Henry rubbed his eyes. You 3 don't sleep, do you? The second sister tilted her head. Sleep? We rest in other ways, but we wish to remain close to the soil you planted yesterday. We wanted to listen to it. Henry chuckled. Listen to the soil, huh? That's new. He grabbed his hat and waved for them to follow. Come on then. If you're going to learn how humans live, you'll need more than farming lessons. The sisters followed him into the barn. Chickens clucked loudly inside, flapping their wings as Henry scattered feed on the ground. The sisters watched with fascination as the birds pecked and scratched. These creatures, the third sister whispered, they are small, but they carry such fire inside. Their songs fill the air. Henry laughed. Fire? That's just chickens being chickens. He bent down to collect fresh eggs from the nests. These eggs keep me fed. Nothing fancy, but good enough. The second sister held one carefully in her long fingers, studying it as though it were a jewel, so fragile. Yet inside, life waits. Another song. Henry shook his head, amused. You 3 make everything sound like poetry. Around here, it's just breakfast. After breakfast, Henry led them to the old shed where he kept tools, shovels, rakes, hose, and a rusted tractor. The sisters examined each object with childlike curiosity. The tallest sister ran her fingers over the tractor's worn seat. So this is your machine. It carries your strength. That's right, Henry said. Without machines, farming would be 100 times harder. The second sister frowned. But machines, do they not take you further from the soil? From the song of the land? Henry thought about that. Maybe. But machines help us survive, and survival comes first. The sisters exchanged thoughtful glances. Henry could see their minds working in ways he couldn't fully understand. By midday, Henry decided to take them into the nearby forest. He thought it might help them understand that farming wasn't just about control. It was also about respecting nature. The forest was alive with the hum of insects, the rustle of leaves, and the calls of birds. The sisters moved silently, their glowing eyes wide with wonder. "This place," the third sister whispered, "is loud. Every tree, every insect, every creature speaks at once. Yet together it is beautiful." Henry nodded. "That's balance. Nature knows how to take care of itself. We humans just try not to mess it up too much." But just as he said that, a distant howl echoed through the trees. Henry froze. Wolves. Henry tightened his grip on the walking stick he carried. "Stay close," he warned Dot. The sisters looked calm, almost curious. "Wolves," the tallest sister said softly, as though she recognized the sound. Moments later, a pair of wolves emerged from the brush. Their yellow eyes glowed and their teeth flashed in the sunlight. Henry stepped forward, holding his stick ready. His heart pounded. But before he could act, the second sister raised her hand. A soft light spread from her palm, washing over the clearing. The wolves stopped, growled uncertainly, and then slowly backed away into the trees. Henry lowered his stick, stunned. You scared them off?" The sister shook her head. "No. We spoke to them. We told them we were not prey." Henry let out a long breath. "I've lived out here all my life, and I've never seen wolves back down like that." The tallest sister looked at him seriously. "Perhaps this is your first challenge. The world tests us, Henry Carter. Even your quiet farm is not free of danger." When they returned to the farm, Henry felt unsettled. He had always thought of his land as safe, peaceful, but today had reminded him that nature could turn wild at any moment. That evening, he worked with the sisters to check the fences around his chicken coop and barn. They mended broken boards and reinforced weak spots. Henry was impressed by their precision. They worked quickly, almost effortlessly, as if every movement had purpose. "You three," Henry said, "you'd make fine farmhands." The second sister smiled faintly. "And you, Henry Carter, would make a fine leader." Henry raised his eyebrows. "Leader? I'm just a farmer." The tallest sister looked at him with glowing eyes. "To us you are more. You stand between the earth and the sky, between creation and survival. That is leadership." Henry didn't know what to say. He had never thought of himself as anything more than a man who grew wheat and raised chickens. Yet the way they spoke made him feel important. As night fell, the sisters gathered once more in the field they had planted the day before. They stood silently, their hands glowing as they touched the soil. Henry watched from a distance, curious but respectful. After a long moment, the third sister approached him. Her voice was gentle. "The seeds you planted, they are singing already. They are eager to rise." Henry smiled. "Give it time. Farming's not about rushing things. You wait, and the earth rewards you." The sister tilted her head. "Perhaps, but the earth also warns us. Tonight it whispers of another trial." Henry frowned. "Another trial? What do you mean?" She looked toward the dark horizon, her eyes glowing faintly. "Something approaches. Not wolves, not storms. Something else. Something watching." Henry felt a chill run down his spine. He looked out over his fields, quiet and peaceful under the starlight, yet deep in his gut he knew she was right. The farm, his safe and simple home, was no longer just his. It had become part of something larger, something unknown. And whatever was coming, he would face it, not alone, but with the three sisters by his side. The next morning, Henry woke to the sound of his rooster crowing. For a moment, he thought everything was normal. The sun rose over the hills, the fields glowed with golden light, and the air smelled fresh after last night's rain. But then he remembered the sisters. They had promised to return. Sure enough, when Henry stepped outside, there they were. Three tall, graceful figures stood by the edge of the wheat field, their skin shimmering faintly as the sunlight touched them. They looked like they had been waiting all night, Good morning, Henry Carter, the tallest sister said with a calm smile. Henry rubbed his eyes. You three don't sleep, do you? The second sister tilted her head. Sleep? We rest in other ways, but we wish to remain close to the soil you planted yesterday. We wanted to listen to it. Henry chuckled. Listen to the soil, huh? That's new. He grabbed his hat and waved for them to follow. Come on then. If you're going to learn how humans live, you'll need more than farming lessons. The sisters followed him into the barn. Chickens clucked loudly inside, flapping their wings as Henry scattered feed on the ground. The sisters watched with fascination as the birds pecked and scratched. These creatures, the third sister whispered, they are small, but they carry such fire inside. Their songs fill the air. Henry laughed. Fire? That's just chickens being chickens. He bent down to collect fresh eggs from the nests. These eggs keep me fed. Nothing fancy, but good enough. The second sister held one carefully in her long fingers, studying it as though it were a jewel, so fragile. Yet inside life waits. Another song. Henry shook his head, amused. You three make everything sound like poetry. Around here it's just breakfast. After breakfast, Henry led them to the old shed where he kept tools, shovels, rakes, hose, and a rusted tractor. The sisters examined each object with childlike curiosity. The tallest sister ran her fingers over the tractor's worn seat. So this is your machine. It carries your strength. That's right, Henry said. Without machines, farming would be 100 times harder. The second sister frowned. But machines, do they not take you further from the soil? From the song of the land? Henry thought about that. Maybe. But machines help us survive, and survival comes first. The sisters exchanged thoughtful glances. Henry could see their minds working in ways he couldn't fully understand. By midday, Henry decided to take them into the nearby forest. He thought it might help them understand that farming wasn't just about control. It was also about respecting nature. The forest was alive with the hum of insects, the rustle of leaves, and the calls of birds. The sisters moved silently, their glowing eyes wide with wonder. This place, the third sister whispered, is loud. Every tree, every insect, every creature speaks at once, yet together it is beautiful. Henry nodded. That's balance. Nature knows how to take care of itself. We humans just try not to mess it up too much. But just as he said that, a distant howl echoed through the trees. Henry froze. Wolves. Henry tightened his grip on the walking stick he carried. Stay close, he warned. The sisters looked calm, almost curious. Wolves, the tallest sister said softly, as though she recognized the sound. Moments later, a pair of wolves emerged from the brush. Their yellow eyes glowed, and their teeth flashed in the sunlight. Henry stepped forward, holding his stick ready. His heart pounded. But before he could act, the second sister raised her hand. A soft light spread from her palm, washing over the clearing. The wolves stopped, growled, uncertainly, and then slowly backed away into the trees. Henry. The next morning, Henry woke with a heavy feeling in his chest. The night before still haunted him. The watchers standing at the edge of his farm, their shadowy forms hissing threats into the cold air. For years, his farm had been a place of peace. Now it felt like a battleground waiting to erupt. He sat on the porch with a mug of coffee, staring out across the fields. The wheat glowed softly in the morning sun, but instead of beauty, Henry saw vulnerability. The land he had spent his whole life tending could be destroyed in a single night if those creatures decided to strike. The sound of footsteps drew his eyes up. The sisters were approaching. Their movements were calm as always, but there was tension in their glowing eyes. The tallest sister spoke first. The watchers will not wait long. They will come again. Henry sighed. Yeah, I figured. But how do we fight something like that? I've got a rifle, but that won't do much against shadows. The second sister knelt in front of him, her gaze steady. Guns will not save us. But there are other ways. We must prepare, not just weapons, but the land itself. Henry frowned. The land? Yes, the youngest sister said softly. The soil, the seeds, the life around us. This place sings loudly. If we join with it, we can protect it. Henry stared at them, confused. You're saying the farm itself can fight back? The tallest sister nodded. With your help. With your connection. That is why we came to you, Henry Carter. And so, preparation began. Henry showed the sisters how to build barriers, stacking hay bales, reinforcing the barn doors, and mending every broken fence post. He worked with the energy of a man half his age, driven by a new purpose. The sisters, meanwhile, walked the fields, pressing their glowing hands into the soil. Wherever they touched, the earth seemed to come alive. The wheat stood taller, the grass greener, and the air vibrated with a strange hum. One afternoon, as Henry dug trenches near the chicken coop, he noticed tiny shoots breaking the soil where none had been planted. Vines crept along the fences, wrapping them in green strength. He wiped the sweat from his brow. You three are turning my farm into a fortress. The second sister smiled faintly. Not a fortress, a sanctuary. At night they trained together. Henry showed them how to handle his old hunting rifle, though he doubted it would be useful. They practiced moving quietly across the fields, listening for the faintest sound of disturbance. But more often, it was Henry who learned from them. The sisters taught him how to listen to the land in ways he never imagined. They guided him to close his eyes, place his hand on the soil, and breathe deeply. To his surprise, he felt something faint but real, a pulse like a heartbeat deep under the earth. That is the rhythm of life, the youngest sister whispered. It flows through you as well. When you plant, when you nurture, you join that rhythm. It gives you strength. Henry opened his eyes, shaken. He wasn't a man of magic or mysticism, but what he felt was undeniable. Maybe you're right, he said softly. Maybe the land and I were not so different. Days passed, and the sense of danger grew heavier. The nights were restless. Henry often woke to see faint shapes, moving along the tree line, watching but never entering. They're waiting, the tallest sister explained one night. They test your courage. They wait for weakness. Henry spat into the dirt. Well, they'll be waiting a long time. Still deep inside, he worried. He was only one man. Could a farmer really stand against creatures from beyond the stars? But whenever doubt crept in, he remembered the sisters' words. A man who can grow life is more powerful than one who only destroys. One evening, as the sun set, Henry gathered the sisters in the barn. If we're going to fight, we need a plan, he said firmly. The second sister nodded. Agreed. The Watchers are drawn to creation. They will come for the seeds you planted. That is their weakness. They hunger for what they cannot make. Themselves. Henry thought for a moment. So the fields are the bait. Yes, the youngest sister said. If we protect the fields, we protect everything. Henry rubbed his chin. Then we make the fields our trap. The sisters exchanged curious glances. Trap? Henry grinned. On a farm, you learn to deal with pests. Coyotes, wolves, even insects. You don't chase them. You make the land work against them. He explained his idea. Trenches filled with water to slow their advance, fences reinforced with vines to block their movement, and fires ready to light at the first sign of attack. The tallest sister placed her hand on his shoulder. You think like a warrior, Henry Carter. Henry shook his head. No, I think like a farmer. A farmer protects his land. That night, as they finished preparing, Henry looked out over his farm. It no longer seemed like a simple patch of earth. With the sister's glowing touch and his hard work, it had become something greater, a shield, alive and strong. But even with all the preparation, Henry knew the hardest part was still to come. As the sisters stood beside him, their glowing eyes fixed on the horizon, Henry tightened his grip on his rifle. They'll come soon, he said quietly. "And when they do, we'll be ready." The second sister smiled faintly. "Yes. Tonight, the land sings louder than the Watcher's whispers. Together, we are strong." Henry nodded. For the first time since the Watchers appeared, he felt steady. Fear hadn't vanished, but it no longer ruled him. He was a farmer. This was his land. And he would defend it, no matter what came out of the darkness. The night air was tense and thick. Henry Carter stood at the edge of his wheat field, the rifle in his hands, his eyes scanning the darkness. The farm had been transformed. Trenches cut through the fields, fences reinforced with glowing vines, and fires burning softly at strategic points. Every inch of the land had been prepared for the coming battle. The sisters moved beside him, their glowing eyes alert, their hands occasionally brushing the soil, keeping the life of the land alive and strong. Henry swallowed hard. "This is it. They'll be here any minute." The tallest sister placed a hand on his shoulder. "Stay calm, Henry. The land and the seeds are with us. Your courage has become part of this place." Henry nodded, his jaw tight. He had never felt so responsible in his life, not just for himself, but for the farm, the sisters, and all the life he had nurtured. From the edge of the forest, a faint shimmer appeared. Shadows moved, twisting and shifting unnaturally. The Watchers had arrived. Henry tightened his grip on the rifle, though he knew it was mostly symbolic. The sisters stepped forward, their hands glowing brighter, the earth responding. To their presence, the second sister whispered, "They sense our strength. They will test it, but they will not break it." Henry took a deep breath. "Then let's see how strong they think we are." The Watchers advanced, their forms gliding over the ground like smoke. One of them pointed a long, shadowy arm at the wheat. The stalk shivered as if under threat. The tallest sister raised her hand. A wave of glowing energy swept across the field. The wheat responded instantly, bending and twisting, forming a living wall between the Watchers and the farm. Henry watched in awe. The land itself seemed alive, protecting him, the sisters, and the seeds they had planted. The Watchers hissed, but they did not retreat. Instead, they surged forward, their shadowy forms pulsing with dark energy. Henry ran to the trenches, keeping a careful eye on the enemy. The first Watcher approached the water-filled trench, and as it stepped in, the water glowed with life, crackling with energy that repelled the creature. "Keep moving," Henry shouted. "Use the land." The sisters worked together, their hands brushing the soil, vines rising from the earth to form barriers. Fires flared in the trenches, not burning destructively, but creating light and heat that pushed the shadows back. Henry felt a surge of pride. This wasn't a fight he could win alone. But together, with the sisters and the land, they had become something stronger than the Watchers had expected. One of the Watchers tried to leap over a fence, its form twisting unnaturally. The youngest sister extended her hand and a vine shot up from the ground, wrapping around the creature and holding it in place. Henry took aim, fired a warning shot. The noise echoed across the field. The Watchers hissed in surprise, giving the sisters time to reinforce the barriers further. "They are clever," the second sister said, "but they do not understand creation. They can destroy, but they cannot create." Henry grinned, even in the heat of battle. "That's something we've got over them, then." The battle continued through the night. Shadows twisted and surged, trying to bypass the trenches, but every time, the sisters and the farm's living energy stopped them. The wheat stalks bent to shield the fire, the soil hummed with life beneath their feet, and the vines moved as if guided by invisible hands. Henry found himself in a strange rhythm, running from one point to another, shoring up defenses, cheering the sisters and trusting the land to fight alongside them. He had never imagined a farm could feel so alive. By the first light of dawn, the Watchers hesitated. Their forms flickered, their movements slower, less certain. They had underestimated the combination of human courage, alien skill, and the living, Power of the earth itself. The tallest sister raised her hand once more. A soft pulse of light spread across the fields. The watchers let out a hiss and slowly retreated, slipping back into the forest, their forms dissolving into the shadows from which they came. Henry sank to his knees, exhausted, but relieved. They're gone. For now. The sisters gathered around him, their glowing eyes softening. You fought well, Henry C.